The eCom Q4 Summit was created to prove that any seller can experience a highly profitable fourth quarter with access to the right tips, strategies, and techniques. There's no need to struggle trying to figure out what to sell, where to find it, or how much to list it for. The summit covers everything from sourcing to listing to marketing and streamlining your operations. It doesn't matter if you're selling on one platform or multiple platforms like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Walmart. And it doesn't matter if you're a new seller or an experienced seller. The information in the summit will help you get sale after sale after sale after sale during the busiest shopping season of the year if you take massive action. So welcome to the eCom Q4 Summit. Hello, everybody. This is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Q4 Summit. And today's key feature speaker is Horace Lyons. Now, Horace is known for many different things. And if you haven't had a chance, check out his YouTube channel, The Working Class Hustler. And he is going to be talking to us about retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, tactical arbitrage, and many other aspects of e-commerce. So I'm excited about his conversation today. So, Horace, welcome to the eCom Q4 Summit, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I will tell you right off the bat, I'm very, very happy that this worked out, Nicole. I'm not a big Q4 kind of guy. I prefer to, stay in categories and particular items that just do well year round. But it's so important, guys, if you're new to this business, and I do focus on newbies, a rising tide raises all ships. And so, no matter what you're doing, it is so important that you're involved right now, because what happens is you're going to be there in order to enjoy that raise in revenue just by virtue of the fact that you're there. You don't necessarily need to overwhelm yourself with, oh, it's Q4, what should I be doing, what should I be buying? All of that's great, but most important, first and foremost, is just that you're in the business actively. And if you're
Yep.
in it now, you've already got traction and momentum. A lot of people want to get into the business because they're going, now it's Q4. That's like trying to buy a stock once the price is going up. You're already too late by that. You need to be in the market. So congratulations to all that are doing Amazon selling right now. And by the way, yes, I talk about Amazon. That's the marketplace that I'm on primarily. But if you're not, if you've been on the fence, get in right now. It's so important.
Absolutely. So I know, since we're going to be talking about all things around online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, tactical arbitrage, I don't know. What is your approach, since we're not going to focus 100% on Q4, but we are going to talk about just selling? What is your approach as we go into August and September, October, November, and December? Is there any adjustments that you personally are going to make to your selling strategy and your selling plan to, work those 5 months into your life, I guess maybe as a gradual progression, or you really just going to ramp it up in certain months and then go back to normal? So what is your strategy for those months?
The It's pretty much one thing, okay? Because I'm always sourcing and I'm big on replens. So the biggest thing for me is just the amount of inventory that I have, both in my own warehouse and what's going out to the Amazon warehouse. By the way, I prefer to focus on both merchant fulfilled as well as FBA. I
Okay.
found a lot of advantages with that. Um, so Nicole, if it's all right with you, at some point I would like to talk a little bit about myself, not my life story. A lot of
Go
people have
ahead.
already
Start
followed that,
now.
but
Start now. Go ahead and talk about yourself, because I can talk about e-commerce all day long. They need to know a little bit about you, so tell them about you.
well, I want to talk more in terms of my personality, because
Okay.
a lot of about business, there's so many ways to make money, and we're all being presented with different opportunities all the time with making money, and most of them work. But you have to understand, is it a match for you? And so when we talk a little bit about myself, I'm going to give points about my personality because that is so important. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough. They just want to present opportunity, and nobody says, yeah, this is a great opportunity. You can make money. And if you are this type of person, da, 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 nobody wants to talk about it. I'm going to go over a few points so that I don't miss anything. Now, you got to understand, guys, I'm a very easygoing guy. I don't like complicated things, and I don't like to make things complicated. You
Hello.
don't have to be perfect in this business. You don't
Correct.
have to be perfect in any business, but the whole paralysis by analysis it stems from people thinking that you have to have everything right. I'm here to show you you don't have to have everything right, and you can still be successful as you define it. Another important thing, it's very important to note, I do not preach ditching the 9 to 5. I work a 9 to 5. I'm a truck driver by trade. I've been doing it approaching 25 years. I have no intentions on stopping at the moment. And I'm here to show you you don't have to want everything that you see the fake Instagram people posting. You don't have to want the Ferrari, the three beach houses, and all of that. Maybe an extra $500 would change your life. I'm not big on outsourcing. You'll hear a lot of people talking about outsourcing. You don't have to do that if you don't want. I'm not into VAs. I focus on newbies, although I do continue to work with them as they move on to become intermediates and eventually advanced. I enjoy contact. That's why. I mean, I enjoy it to the extent that I give my personal phone number. I don't charge for it. If there's anything that I could do to help, let me put that out there right now. There's nothing that I won't do. I've taken people, and in order to help them, I've said, hey, look, you ain't got no money, you ain't got no inventory. I got some inventory. Go ahead and list the item. If it sells, you pay me, I'll drop ship it for you. Let's get you going. Let's get you some momentum. Another thing, and I know this is a question that you would have. What is a typical day like for me?
Okay.
So you got to remember, again, I work a regular job. So I'll get up and I'll process orders. Uh, if I do offer a leads list, I need to source for that. I do a good bit. You could count on anywhere between 15 and 30 packages going out from my location on a daily, Monday through Friday. Uh, I'm on, answering emails, answering text messages, and then I go to work and I drive a truck. I have a regular run, and then I come back. So that's a typical day for me. A lot of times that is a question that people have. So I just wanted to put that out there. And let me say this. Uh, you're going to be lucky if you can get a word in edgewise today. So just be ready. uh, guys, again, I'm an easygoing guy. And I'm going to tell it like it is. This is not some overview where we're going to just glaze over some things. I ain't got nothing to sell you. So I'm going to tell it like it is. This is a class. We're going to go over real, actionable steps. I'm the type of guy, we're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to get busy. That is how you get things done around here. I don't need to half tell you some stuff. No, we're going to get in it today.
That's right.
Be ready.
Okay.
If
I'm ready.
I'm encouraging you to invest in this. If you want to be able to go over this and really absorb, guys, I know how you are because we're cut from the same cloth. You're into personal development. You've heard all the speeches, and you know repetition is key. This is the course, and it is my mission, it is my goal to give you real information today. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to give an interview, well, not interview, we're going to give an overview, I meant to say, about what this whole Amazon arbitrage business is about. We're going to talk about where you're going to find your products, which is your inventory. We're going to talk about how to handle your inventory once you get it, regardless of where you're getting it. Now what? Okay, we're going to talk about the tools that you need, according to me. I mean, if you're a tool junkie, you can never have enough, but I only have a handful of tools. And we're going to talk about, I've got 20 pro tips. Okay, let's face it, guys. If you're watching YouTube videos, you most likely you already know what arbitrage is. You
Yeah.
need some pro tips so that when you get going, what do you need to be doing? So we ready?
I'm ready. I'm
Everybody
ready.
ready?
I'm ready. Now, here's the deal. I will say I'm confident that these pro tips will work this Q4. I'm
Oh,
confident.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Everything that I'm talking about is going to be applicable year round. We could always tailor it and specify it as it pertains to Q4. So make sure if there's anything that, because I'm not coming necessarily from a Q4 standpoint, uh, I'm I'm ready for anything that we could specifically turn towards that
Huh?
season.
Okay.
So let's get going. Number one, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just for the sake, what is arbitrage? All arbitrage is you purchasing a product, typically retail, and then turning around and selling it retail. Obviously, you're looking for a price difference in your favor, because once you subtract what your cost out of what you received, what is left is your profit. It's a very interesting sales model, well, business model, I would say. It's very intriguing. I love the fact that when you get into it, oh my, you become exposed to so many different things. You learn a lot from this business model, and you learn a lot about the market. But let me get into some things. When you get into arbitrage, and again, I do it on Amazon. You can do it in other marketplaces, but I do it on Amazon. Take your time. Okay. You don't need a lot of money to start with this business, but you do need to make sure that it is for you. Listen, arbitrage is a lot of work. At some
Yes.
point, you could outsource if you want. I choose not to, but the fact is, whether you outsource it, whether you get your hands dirty like myself, it is a lot of work. Now, some of the things that you're going to have to do, you're going to have to source products, because that your inventory is the lifeblood of the business. You're going to do that. You can do it online. You could do it in a store. That would be considered retail arbitrage. We're going to talk about even a really nice
Mhm.
uh, other way to do it when we get into those 20 pro tips. Uh, so you're going to have to source products. You're going to have to list those items on the platform. You're going to have to return items. Sometimes that happens, guys. This is business. You're going to have to answer questions. You're going to have customers reaching out to you with their different questions. You're going to have to deal with their issues. You're going to have to reconcile inventory.
Yep.
Sometimes inventory becomes lost, it becomes stranded, uh, inactivated. I mean, there's all types of things that you're going to have to do with this business. So, again, just to recap on that, understand, I don't need to try and tell you that this is going to be, all you do is kick your feet up. And this is work like every other business from every other presenter in the summit. Okay. So just understand that. Get your mind right, get your money right. Another thing, this is one of my famous quotes. Okay. You're it. The person that's watching all of the presenters that are presenting, the person that's watching and saying, does it work? Turn a mirror, look in the mirror, and say that. Does it work? Because you're it. Okay. If you're not going to do the work, it isn't going to work. So
Yeah.
make sure you have that clear. Put the thought in your mind, whatever challenges, whatever obstacles, whatever situations that come up, because this is still life. You're the one that's going to have to make it work. Okay, guys,
Yeah.
think about this. People come into business and they're asking, what should I do? It's not what you should do. The question is, How should I be thinking? So the purpose of this presentation right now is to get you to think if you want the similar results to what I get. And we'll talk about what those are. Let's see. Now, another thing, very important. Your most valuable asset is your ability to evaluate when you're doing, and it doesn't matter if you're what strategy you're using. We're talking arbitrage, but this could be wholesale, this could be, private label, white label. You have to be able to evaluate. That's gonna take different things that we're gonna unpack here. But understand your most valuable asset in this business is being able to evaluate. When you look at that product, you got to know, what is my system to determine, can I make money on this?
Yeah.
So once you learn that, oh my goodness, there are just so many. There's going to be more opportunity than you have money to take advantage of. Another question is going to be, especially for the newbies, what should I be selling? And that's going to depend on you, because there's just so much stuff that you can sell. Myself, I prefer, regular everyday items that people just need, just necessities. People got to eat. That's not negotiable. So they don't need to justify it. There's
That's
no
right.
buyer's remorse. You know what? I really don't want these ramen noodles. I think I'll send them back. I like those types of products because they fall under what we like to call replenishables. These are products you can wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over. Another big question people have: what kind of money can you make? Now, the typical answer to that is going to be, and it's true, how much are you willing to put in? You're going to get out what you put in, and that's
Absolutely.
the way it goes. But the next question, well, Horace, how much are you making? I usually generate on Amazon anywhere between 15 and 25,000 a month in revenue, and I get to keep, depending, but I'm going to say between 12 and 20%. Sometimes I have more, but when it comes to replenishables that I can continue to move over and over, the margins are going to be lower. So you can do the math on that, and you can take into account the fact that I'm doing this in addition to my regular job. Why? Why Amazon? Why do I do it on Amazon when I could do it on eBay? I can do it on Walmart. I started out selling out of the trunk of my car. Why Amazon? That's an easy one. That's a no-brainer, guys. Amazon is huge. They control so much of the online market right now. They have proven that their business model works. For the most part, it's a stable and reliable platform. They have their quirks like anybody else, but that is the reason why I say right now is the right time for you to get on Amazon if you're not out there. I mean, they have a lot of advantages. For the most part, it's very easy, particularly with arbitrage. It's pretty easy to find a product that you can sell. Okay. It's pretty easy to get it to the marketplace. When you're putting that product in front of over 300 million people, it's really not hard to sell it when you know how to evaluate properly.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the, if we want to talk disadvantages, because everything isn't all good, um, you know, there are a few things. It can get on your nerves a little bit, but it's really not particular to Amazon. It's just business. You're going to run into, you know some issues. One thing that I don't particularly like is a lot of times uh customers can be a bit of a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Their expectations can be unreasonable sometimes. I don't like the way sometimes Amazon will handle your inventory. They're gonna be challenges. All of a sudden, your listing will be deactivated for reasons that the world may never know. Uh, they're not always the easiest to communicate with, and when you have a problem, you want answers. You
Yep.
want to talk to somebody that you can actually understand and understands you. You
Yeah.
know, it's frustrating. It can be frustrating for you and customer service. A lot of times we get upset because we can't understand the person on the other end.
Yep.
Sometimes they frustrated because they can't understand you. So it's not just you know
That is so true. That is 100% true. That's what my business
uh,
partner complains about all the time.
an- another thing is pricing. Uh, a lot of times Amazon wants you to sell a product at a certain price, and they have ways to try and eschew you in a certain direction with that product. Oh well, we deactivated it because we don't like the price, even though it has been shown that the market will bear that price. A huge issue that a lot of us have is other people coming to the marketplace and driving prices down. That's
Yep.
going to happen, guys. So just know that. We will talk about that as far as how to deal with it. You can overcome every disadvantage and you can be successful. Next thing, what type of person should you be? And I sort of alluded to that. If you're going to do the work, you won't have a problem out here. If you come to this platform ready to get in the mud, get your head out of the clouds, put it in the mud, and do the work. If you're willing to be consistent, uh, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I don't tend to fret over every little thing. I got work to do. Okay. For the most part, it's going to work out. You got to put the work in. So if you're the type of person that's hungry, that's willing to do the work, you don't have unrealistic expectations, and you're willing to stay the course,
Hmm.
this is for you. But let me tell you, um, and I'm going to get into another thing about what type of person should you be. A lot of times, I don't think people talk enough when they talk about opportunities. I don't think they talk enough about what type of opportunity this is. Let me be clear, guys. So listen, when you talk about arbitrage on Amazon, that is a short game business. That means you could buy that product today, you could list it today, you could sell it today. There are not many business models out there that you can do that. And even on Amazon, you want to get into hotel, I'm sorry, you want to get into Amazon today and see what happens. It's not going to happen. Now, do those other models work? Of course they do. Does real estate work? Absolutely. Is it a short game? No. Is it the right game for you? That depends. You Some people need fast money and they don't have much money to get started with. You got a lot of money? You got a lot of time? Get into real estate. And in a month, 6 months, a year, that big deal will come
Hmm.
through. So understand this is a short game, and I love that. I recommend it for beginners because it's quick and easy to get started. Now we're going to get into what you need, but let me just give you a chance to get a word in if you had a question at this point.
I don't have a direct question. What I do have is, I wanted to piggyback off of a couple of things, but you know what? I love the fact that you're giving them the insight of what they need to think about as a seller, as either a beginner on this journey or to stay in the game, the things that you should be focused on. And, one of the things that you shouldn't do that I'm surprised you didn't mention is don't compare your results to somebody else's because you don't know how long they've been on their journey and how long you've been on your journey. So comparing your results to somebody else's is not the way to do this. For some people, they get started on any platform, not just Amazon, and they are able to get sales immediately. And then for others, they're like, I've been doing this for 6 weeks and nothing's happening. Well, there's a thing called priming the pump, and you're still figuring out your groove, and you're still figuring out the right types of products to list and the pricing in which to list it. And so the timing could be off for your specific products you've chosen at the time. That
Yes.
doesn't mean that they're bad products. You just maybe have not, there's maybe some other things that could be improved. And when you're early in the journey, it may take you a minute. So, be prepared for this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not playing the lottery. There's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be instant money that comes out. I mean, like a lot of people play the lottery for years and don't ever make any money,
Most of them
but
don't.
but this is not the lottery where you're just going to instantly win millions. This is going to be a journey, and there will be things that you will continue to learn and get better at over time as you stay in the game. But the key is to, build up that consistency and build up the tenacity so that you have the opportunity to learn the things you need to learn every step of the way. I was just talking about, learning how to ride a bicycle. Like we could sit there and watch videos on how to ride a bicycle all day long. But until you actually get on a bike and you start moving your legs, your mind and your body start to adjust to say, okay, your muscles automatically figure out that you have to figure out this balancing thing. Your midsection has to figure out how to hold yourself up, and then you have to figure out how to pedal to keep the momentum so you can keep the bike upright. There is a
Mm-hmm.
process to it. So watching the videos are going to help you to a point, but you got to get on the bike. And that's the same thing with selling. You can watch videos all day long, but you got to jump in because the water's fine. And once you get in there, you will start to course correct every single time you pedal through this journey because you will get better at it, but only with time, like riding a bike. So anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. And now you made me want to piggyback off something you just said because you know, guys, this is so important what I'm about to say. The experience and putting in the time, like Nicole just said, it's going to make you so good at this. It is literally like printing money. You get good enough at using the tools, at using your own intuition, you start to learn. Okay. And once you get to a point where it's pretty much printing on demand, it just changes. But guys, there are going to be challenges. If you have not sold on Amazon, when you get started, a huge challenge is going to be cash flow because they're going to keep your money and you ain't going to like it because for a good while you'll be selling. That's going to feel good. You'll see money building up in your account and that's going to feel good. Then you're going to see something called reserves. And that's not going to feel good. But you're going to have to embrace it, pay your dues, and eventually there will be no reserves. Wow. I mean, so understand that going in. Now, with that being said, there's not much you need. So let's go over that real quick.
Okay.
You need a computer and an internet connection. You need your Amazon seller account. That's just as easy as going to any Amazon page, like any shopper. Go down to the bottom and find the link to sign up. You're gonna need some startup capital. It's gonna be up to you how much that is. How the more you have, the more you can get going with, but don't fret over it. Just get started. If you got $5, get started. You're going to need some tools. You can do this by hand, but boy, oh boy, is it going to be laborious. If you don't have the capital, if you don't have the budget for tools, you don't have to have a bunch of them. I started with no tools. So, but I'm going to recommend some. So, next, we're going to talk real quick about where to find products. Now, you're going to find them, like we mentioned, online at any website. A lot of times, we're going to use big box websites like Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Bed Bath and Beyond, Kohl's. Those are some of my favorites. But then you can find those little websites that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
Obviously, you can go into retail stores. And the funny thing is this: retail arbitrage is you physically going out into a store and walking around. That requires walking. That's labor. That's movement. You would think that more people would be interested in online because you can sit down and just source off the computer. I have more people interested in retail arbitrage than online, and I guess it's just the physical nature of it. Going out, actually looking at products, touching them, not worrying about when is the shipment going to arrive? Is it going to be complete? Are there going to be damages? People like retail arbitrage. And another place you're going to find products is going to be other sellers. We call it reverse searching. In most cases, you're going to need tools for that, but you can actually look at other sellers on the Amazon platform to get ideas. And then those ideas will lead you to either online or retail purchases. Uh, let's let's get into the mud a little bit.
Okay. All right.
So once you have the inventory, whether it was online, whether it was retail, or whether it was this secret tip that you're going to get later when we go over your 20 pro tips, once you have the inventory, now what? Now, again, guys, this is real stuff. This is what will be included in a course. Now, first things first, you got to have a plan, especially if it's FBA. What is the profit margin that you're looking for? What is the return on investment that you're looking for? We're not going to get exactly into what those terms mean. We're not going to break that down, but you understand. We're talking about how much profit you want. You need to know that right out the gate, because what happens is the product comes to you, and now you need to list the product. Well, what are you going to charge? That depends. How much profit do you want? Okay, now you got to break that down, guys. How much did you pay? You got to be looking at tools to figure out, hey, what can I realistically expect to get? How long are you going to sit on the product? You need to know that right out of the gate. Don't just send products into the warehouse. Don't just sit them in your physical inventory if you're merchant fulfilling without a plan for it. Because here's what's going to happen. Nothing. Everything that you list doesn't always sell as quick as you would like. That's how it works.
Say that again. Please say that again. Please say that again. Especially when you first start, everything that you sell, you list,
you don't,
not gonna sell. It's gonna be okay.
At the time you get ready to list this product, you're getting ready to either send it in or sit it in your physical inventory. You must have a plan. If you don't have a plan, here's what's going to happen. Nothing. Okay. You have no disposition on this item. So it's just sitting there and you're moving on because this business is it has a lot of momentum and it's not in front of you anymore because it got sent into the warehouse or it got sit on a shelf. And now you're on to other things. If you don't have a plan where you go back and look, okay, I said I was going to sell this at this price. It's not moving. I said I wanted it out of here. By this point, it's still here. Now, what are you going to do? That's up to you to figure out. You got to think about things like, okay, this is the minimum price I want on it. This is what I hope to get on it. And if neither of those work, now what? What could you do? You could hold it, but then you got to start figuring out, okay, there's a cost to do that. There's a cost. If it's sitting in Amazon's warehouse, well, they don't do that for free. You're taking up space. If it's sitting in your basement, well, there's a cost to that because while this product sits, there's money tied in it. What can the money do tied in it? Nothing. So you got to be thinking like a manager. It's great to come into this business thinking like a hustler because hustlers flip. It's fun to flip. If you're going to run a legitimate, sustainable business, you have to start thinking not so much like a hustler, but like a manager, because a manager is really working this stuff. And sometimes you take losses. Sometimes you break even. Hopefully you make a profit. None of it's going to happen unless you have a plan. So when the product gets there and now you're getting ready to list it, you need to already have a plan because that's going to affect a lot of things. Okay. Now listen to what I'm going to tell you. At the time that you get ready to list it, you might decide to hold on to it. That means you didn't list it yet. That means you might decide to return it. Sometimes you look, the package comes, the whole shipment, you look at this and go, this really wasn't a good deal. Something has happened. Maybe I was, not quite there at the moment, or maybe the market has shifted. I'm giving it back. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you may say, hey, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I bought this to list on Amazon. Doesn't look good anymore. Let's see what Walmart's doing. Oh, you know what? The market will pay a price that I can live with on Walmart. Let's list it there. And that's just an example. Maybe eBay. So if you got other marketplaces that you sell at, that's going to give you some advantage. Otherwise, You might even just hold it. You might look at your tools and say, you know what, this isn't doing good right now. But but the system is telling me if I wait a bit, then later on, when this product is in season or whatever the case, I may sell it then. So understanding what to do at the time that you're listing. And don't forget, you might have bought the product thinking, I'm going to send these into the warehouse. Then, right as you're creating the shipment, you look and you go, I don't think I can make any money. Well, let me see. Maybe I can merchant fulfill it because the fees are going to be less. Now, there's a trade off because now you got to factor in the cost of shipping. And we're going to talk about the cost of shipping when we come to those 20 tips. Oh my God, guys, you bet you're so lucky to be here right now. It's so exciting.
Let me just ask you a question. Can they, if they grab the all access pass, can they get those 20 tips on a note? Can we turn it to a PDF?
I would be willing to do that. I already have them written out. So
there you go. So somewhere on this page, there's a link to upgrade to the all access pass. So you can get the written 20 tips. And again, you can use these tips year round. You can also use them Q4. I would encourage you to grab the all access pass because in addition to that, he's going to give you a leads list. But keep going. Keep going. Let's go through them.
Okay. So, like we said, possibly you may decide to merchant fulfill. Maybe you were going to merchant fulfill it at the time that you source the product. Ain't going to look right. Numbers don't look right. Turn around and look. Oh, you know what? I could actually still make a profit shipping these in to the Amazon warehouse and letting them do it. Make sure you focus on your seasons, lest you pay storage fees while it sits in Amazon's warehouse. You know, perfect example. I was so fortunate. I sold about 4 bikinis this summer. Yeah, problem. They sat in the warehouse for a year. So you don't want to do stuff like that. Okay. Think about it, guys. And it's so important to think about it at the time you're creating the listing, at the time the inventory gets into your hands, at the time you're listing, because you're going to be busy. This business is a lot of fun, and you're going to be focused on the most exciting part, which is sourcing. So things are going to get lost if you don't think about it at the time. Okay. Try different price points. Again, these are things you're doing right when you got the inventory in your hot little hands and you're figuring out, okay, where am I going to list this? A lot of times a product could be sitting out there and it's just not moving because you haven't found the sweet spot that the market is willing to pay. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's huge though. Remember, every product has a sweet spot. You might find it and maybe you could source at the right price and you could be moving that. Okay. Always one more. I just want to cover one more time. Consider your FBA fees, your storage fees. Know your break-even point at the time you're listing the product. Know the break-even point, because what we want to do at the very least is break even. Because you got to understand, you don't make mistakes. If that's not the way I look at it. What you do is you learn. You're learning what works, what doesn't work. There is a price to be paid if you're going to be in business. The tuition is when things don't go exactly as you planned. Okay. So that's how that works. Let's see. Now we need to talk about what tools you're going to need. This is going to be fun for you tool junkies out there. Some of y'all can't wait to get this software, to get that software, because you just like tools. And that's great. I love them too. But just before we even get into these tools, remember, that's all it is a tool.
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee, but business is it's just like life, guys. Business is a system of odds. Life is a system of odds. The tools move the odds in your favor that you're going to be able to sell that product and that you're going to be able to sell that product at a profit. So the first tool I want to talk about It's called Inventory Lab. I know you know that one, Nicole.
Yes.
And the reason I recommend that tool is it goes back to when I was hooping and hollering and ranting and raving, and now I'm about to do it again. Here's the deal. When you use Amazon's portal, which is called Seller Central, to list products, that's all you're going to get out of there. They're really not helping you to run your business like a manager. They're helping you list products on their platform. They do have tools. They do want you to be successful. They are not going to invest in you managing your inventory. Okay. Give you a prime example. You want to list an item, you list it through Seller Central, Amazon's portal. Now, later on, you go back because you can't remember, where did I buy this product? How much did I pay? When did I buy it? If you can't answer those questions, you can't run your business. And Amazon doesn't have a way for you to say, well, how much did you pay for the product?
Yeah.
When did you buy it? What store did you get it from? If you can't answer those questions, you can't run your business. If I had one software that I would recommend, it would definitely be Inventory Lab, because if you're going to run a successful business, you have to behave like a manager. Get out of this hustle thing. It's okay to start there, but over time, if you really want to develop a legitimate business, you've got to run the business like a manager. And what Inventory Lab does, not only does it streamline a lot of the processes of getting inventory onto the platform, it gives you tools. There's nowhere that I'm aware of inside of Amazon's Seller Central app. There's nowhere where I can see my profit and loss statement.
No, there's not. I will tell you one tip that I do give people though. Okay. Some people create smart SKUs, not queues. And so in their SKU, the naming of their SKU, they will incorporate some of that so that they have that reference point. But again, having access to all of that info is so much better than, now you got to remember, like if you have your naming convention for your SKU, you might be able to make out parts of what you need, but it's only so long. So
exactly.
Definitely.
I like to use Inventory Lab because I like to try to keep as much of my inventory going to one warehouse. And it's very easy to do in Inventory Lab. I have videos that teach that right on YouTube. So that's just another thing. It's good. And another thing about Inventory Lab, they continue to improve. They continue to add things.
Yeah.
What if you're not ready to list the inventory? It needs to still be accounted for. Can we inventory it without you having to go to a spreadsheet, without you necessarily having to use QuickBooks? I know some people like QuickBooks. I'm not a QuickBooks person. Maybe I will be someday. But I can tell you with Inventory Lab, you can handle all aspects of the business. Now, sourcing tools. Now we're talking about tools that are going to help you find products that you can sell. I use a software called Tactical Arbitrage. Maybe you've heard about it. Some people use Source Mogul. I've never tried it. Tactical Arbitrage is the lifeblood of my business. Now I said earlier, inventory is the lifeblood, and that's how I get the bulk of my inventory, is by using Tactical Arbitrage. What it does is it has upwards of 1,000 websites, and you can basically figure out what products you can sell at a profit. It's not perfect. It still requires a lot of work, a lot of discernment, and a lot of evaluating skills.
Yep.
But if you learn those skills, excuse me, the world is your oyster. And you can source by particular stores.
Yep.
Excuse me. You can source by particular categories, brands. It is very, very robust. Another tool you will hear people referencing is Keepa. And when you use the little widget the little extension, then right on the Amazon listing page, you have that nice little graph, and you learn to use that, and that tool will help you to make decisions. It'll help you to see how much stock. Imagine looking at your competition and seeing how much stock they have on the particular item. That's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine being able to see, okay, how much does this product sell at typically every Q4? That's going to make a difference because you can have a product that sells for $10 all other times of the year, $35, $40 during Q4.
Yeah.
People will show you that type of data. Okay. Again, evaluating data is the most important skill that you could develop in this business. Another tool that I like to use is a repricer. Again, guys, this is great when you start out because you can keep up with those 5 products you got. 5 turns into 50. 50 turns into 500, and you can't keep up. If you're going to be in this business, you're going to have to reprice items.
Yeah.
Okay. For whatever reason, you need a software that says, okay, here's the product. Here's my strategy. I want to make at least 20% return on investment. I want to compete against everybody. Oh wait, I want a 20% return on investment. I only want to compete against FBA sellers. This software will do that for you. And I'm going to tell you, the minute I started using a repricer, I saw my sales jump up 15, 20% because now I'm racing NASCAR. Okay. Now I'm keeping up with the people that are on the next level, people that are thinking like a manager. See, here's what a hustler does. Hustler says, I want to make a profit, and I'm crossing my arms, and I'm not going to budge on the price. That's what an amateur does. That's what a hustler does. A business manager, he says, hey, look, we got to keep this stuff moving. If we can raise the price and make the money, good. But I ain't got time to be looking at that. I got 500 other products. If we need to lower the price to make a profit, good. But I ain't got time for that because I'm busy managing the business. If we need to liquidate or break even, good. But I ain't got time for that because I'm busy doing the most important thing in this business, and that is sourcing products. How many of you have heard of the 80-20 rule? Most of you, because you all study. Okay, you already know 20% of the things that you're doing in business account for 80% of the results that you want. And I'm going to tell you, in this business, that 20% is sourcing products. Everything else is just part of the process. Listen to what I'm telling you. The majority, 80% of the results that you're going to get in business come from 20% of the actions that you take. What is the 20%? When it comes to selling on Amazon, it is sourcing products. That's the most important skill. Everything else, if you guys, you want to talk about automating, everything automated, automate everything else. But you better be the one doing the most important thing, which is sourcing. And a repricer like Aura helps with that because you have to. If you're gonna come up from the minor leagues to the major leagues, you've got to be repricing. If you're going to expand and grow the business, you're constantly bringing in more and more inventory. You don't have time. You don't have the capacity to be constantly repricing. And if you don't, you will not be able to scale. Okay. The repricer that I use is called Aura. That is AURA. Now, let's talk about another tool that I use. There's a tool to help you when it comes to getting cash back and discounted gift cards. Listen, cash back and discounted gift cards. That's free money. It's a game changer. I use a software called Rev ROI. That would be REV space ROI. And what it does is you open it up, it's an extension, and it will show you the particular. Let's say you're on a store. Let's say you're sourcing at Kohl's.com. You click on that little extension and it's going to look and it's going to tell you, here are all the places where you can get cash back. Hey, it'll tell you, well, you can get 10% from Retail Me Not. You can get 5% from Rakuten. You can get 8% from Be Frugal. That's free money. You click, it's activated, and that entire shopping uh, experience is logged, and you get that free money. What about cash back? What about discounted gift cards? Is what I want to say. You know, guys, you got to think. People are selling their gift cards.
Yeah.
Somebody's making money, and that difference is where you can make money, guys. Cash back and discounted gift cards are so important. So enough on that. Here's what we're going to do at this point. We're going to let my gracious host ask any more questions, and then we're going to get into those 20 tips. Get ready for the hoop and the hollering, the rant and the raving. See, they call me La Machine. Questions?
Well, the one thing I did want to say, you said the most important thing was sourcing. I do think the sourcing is extremely important, but I think there's something that's far more important than sourcing, and I think that is listing. I think that nobody makes any money. You can source all you want to, but until it's listed, nothing's going to happen to it.
So, I'm glad you said that. I made the incorrect assumption that if they went that far, they're gonna list. And you know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you got people that'll go that far. That's like literally going to the edge of the pool
and then not getting in.
And it happens. I stand corrected.
So I'm like, you gotta have to jump in and get wet because it's time. You got it.
If you're willing to source the product, get it in your hands, and you're not willing to list it, I'm going to tell you what you need. You need me to come and shake you and get your good. Call me.
Here we go. You might as well just donate all that to the Goodwill, because that's all you're doing is collecting stuff, buying it cash to go donate it to the Goodwill. That's what you're pretty much doing.
And you've heard of people doing this.
Yeah, just people do some crazy stuff. I mean, they just don't understand. So I'm like, okay, because they'll get into go buy all this inventory, and then you try to get them to list it, and then they don't go list it, and then about a year later, like, I bought all this inventory. I think I'm just gonna donate it. I'd be like, please stop. Like, I can't with you. Then the other thing is one of the things that you talked about. I think that tools are always helpful, but you have to have the volume. When you're early in the journey, you haven't made any money yet. That is not the first thing I'm going to recommend that you do. Absolutely. The first thing, I'm going to go back to the bike riding. Like, you first have to go through the exercise of getting familiar with the process and getting better at balancing on the bicycle, getting better at figuring out how fast you need to pedal to keep the bike upright, getting better at learning how to turn from left to right so that way you can make fewer and fewer mistakes and you don't get ejected off of the bike. You have to engage in the activity of actually being a seller. Then once you engage in the activity of being a seller, you'll gradually get better at it over time. And then you will begin the process of potentially finding those products that end up being more profitable, the things that seem to work better for you. Then you go, oh, I'm starting to get more sales. What is happening? Oh, I'm getting better at creating listings. I'm getting better at titles. I'm getting better at pricing my stuff. Now I'm going to have some volume and I am profitable. Now let's look at some of these tools. So I love the tools. I love all the tools that you mentioned. There's some tools that I recommend as well, but you got to start the process by doing the work and understanding it before you go to the tools. There's nothing like working with sellers and they begin the process. So they do what I just said before. They go out and they buy all this inventory and then they just let it sit. Then they're like, okay, I listed one thing and it took me forever, so I'm going to go buy all these listing tools. Then they buy all these listing tools and they use them to go list the stuff. And then they get mad and say this e-commerce thing doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, you went and she's like, it cost me $500. Look, nobody told you to go buy all them tools and nobody told you to buy that much inventory. Let's sample some stuff because you're new to the game. And then let's get familiar with the process and understand how to list on these platforms, how to get your inventory sent in, how to whatever, how to fulfill an order when you're doing merchant fulfilled, how to do all these things. But the only way you're going to do that is with consistency over time. And then once you have been able to master the art of riding with your hands off of the handlebars on the bike, that might be the time in which you start investing in some tools. So that's all I got.
I'm glad you said that. And I will tell you this. When you're first starting out, that's one of the reasons why retail arbitrage is really great for beginners, because you walk into a store and Amazon gives you a tool right on your phone that you can scan products and start making evaluations right then and there. If you just walk into a store, understanding product rank and things like that, then Amazon, just by virtue of you having a seller account, they already give you the one tool that you need. If you start with that, you'll be just fine. I agree with everything you just said, 100%.
And then my last thing, and I'm going to let you get to your 20, is that if you are a person that's not selling on Amazon, you can still use the Amazon buying app to learn about profitable products that you can sell on other platforms. The Amazon buying app actually does give you the sales rank as you scroll down to product information.
Yes.
So if you do that, if you go out and source for eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or Google Shopping or Shopify or whatever, you can go see what it's doing on Amazon. You can use Amazon as your gauge as to whether or not this thing is potentially going to be profitable. Because if it's sitting in the Amazon top 100, and let's say the sales rank is really, really low, and you see that top 100 in parentheses over to the side in the buying app, then there's a high probability that you have a chance of selling that product on another platform, giving you the opportunity to say, okay, I can still use Amazon to help me make sourcing decisions.
Absolutely. So now, because I've been yipping and yapping for about an hour, now we're going to get to my favorite part. We're going to get into the 20 pro tips that I have. You ready?
Ready.
Everybody ready?
I'm strapped in. I got my seatbelt on.
Okay. And you're more than welcome to chime in. You've got experience as well, and some of these topics you might find interesting. Number one, do not get into price wars. Let me say that again. Do not get into price wars. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to get on a product. You're going to be doing just great. And then all of a sudden, you're not going to be doing great. And you're going to go out and look. And where there was only one, which was you, now there are two. And not only did this guy jump on your listing, no, he didn't say, well, let me just get in where you're at. He says, I want all the sales. So I'm going to get in and I'm going to undercut you. And he's going to sit there. And that's where it's going to stay. Because to the Amazon shopper, well, why would he buy from you anymore? You're $1 more. So now, if you're not going to get into a price war, what are you going to do?
Wait it out.
That's a strategy. And people do run out. That's actually one of the tips. We might as well cover it now. People do run out of stock. Okay. Now, what I typically do is this when it comes to, and this is again on the price war theme, because a lot of times I find a product, I see what it's doing. I see a lot of velocity with that keeper graph. I see a low rank. I already know this is going to be a winner. But what I don't do is kick the door in and try to undercut everybody. I usually get in 2 or 3 cents above the competition. The algorithm, as long as you're within 2-3%, a lot of times it's still going to share the buy box with you if there's a buy box. Okay. That's been my experience. If somebody jumps on my listing and now they're taking the price, I stay a couple pennies ahead of them and I usually still do all right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, good tip. Good tip.
Okay, tip number 2. Don't overwhelm yourself with your perceived competition. I don't really even look at other sellers as competition. They have their business models and you don't even know what it is.
That's true.
Sometimes people are fighting with me on a listing and they don't realize, baby, I done already lost on that. I'm just trying to get rid of it. If you want to follow me down so that now we can both lose money, you be my guest. You don't know what their business model is. You don't know if they're making money, if they're trying to do some sort of loss leader. You don't know what they're doing. So just work your game. You've got your own business model, and remember, your business model is your business model. If you get overwhelmed with competition, you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to run your business. You're going to be constantly chasing your perceived competition around. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, this one this is number 3.
Okay.
Listen, find extreme couponers. There are people out there. They get it. This is a thing. You guys probably know. There are people that know how to use couponing, and they get stuff for free. Sometimes they walk out with free stuff and with paid money. What do they do with all this stuff? Well, they sell it, and you could be one of their main buyers every week. Listen to me. Every week I meet with a woman who is an extreme couponer, and I get deals and I get items that I never would find. And they're out there. Where do you find them? A lot of them are on Facebook Marketplace. But these people, when they see you're serious, they see you're consistent. Wow. I've gotten on listings I never would have even thought of sourcing because I deal with an extreme couponer. Did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I was going to say we have an extreme couponer on our team, and she is bananas. And her husband made her get rid of all her inventory, but she will still go into like a Walgreens and buy like 200 or something, and get it for like 94 cents. And I'm just like, because she's so good at her craft. So I just tell people, like, I just like to follow her around. Like, okay, where are we going today? Like, I'm getting in the car and I'm following you. Tell me where we going. So I can go find these deals because it is an art to it. Like I tell people all the time, you can source below wholesale, way below wholesale. I mean, you could already have done it just as a big, but based on, just using your cashback, using a cashback card, using coupons, that kind of stuff. But the extreme couponers go to a whole nother level with it.
Ooh. I
They
mean,
get
they walk
money.
in with binders.
And they walk out with like, oh, okay, that store just gave me $200 or $100, sorry, $10 to take 200 of this off of their shelf. It's like, oh my gosh, this craft that you have.
Yeah. It's enough to make you want to get into it, but I don't have the time.
I don't have the time.
Essentially, what you're doing is you're outsourcing. You're having them source for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a great way to look at it,
I agree with the extreme couponers. There's just always some kind of strategy or deal. And even if it's not always food, they somehow are able to find some of these ridiculous deals that, like, that have nothing to do with food. Like, so they can find great, sourcing for replenishables and consumables. Yes. But then they can also find the stuff that you're not even expecting. Like I'm just going to make something up. I got, I don't know, 50 tires for like $2. I'd be like, how did you find that? Like, I consider myself good at what I do, but you take it to a whole nother level. There should be a master class for what you do. Like, yeah. So I agree.
Okay. Number 4. This is going to sound contradictory because pro tip number 1, I said, don't get into price wars. I should have said, don't get into price wars as a beginner or as a rule. Typically, you don't. But here's tip number 4. There may come a time where you do go to war. But I got a whole video series on that on YouTube if you want to find it. There's a lot to consider. I mean, if you're going to go to war, there will be casualties, and it could be you. So that's why, generally speaking, I say don't go into them. But as you gain more experience, and I'm gonna give you a quick example. Sometimes you might have an advantage. Sometimes you might have the high ground. You might have enough your ability to get a certain product because of your location. Guys, that's another tip that I didn't put in here. Everybody has an advantage based on where they are. There are certain products people can't get
Yeah.
everywhere in this union.
Yeah.
That's going to give you an advantage. Pay attention and learn what those are. It was a huge game changer for me.
Yeah.
And guess what? Somebody decided they wanted to go to war with me. Now, when I say go to war, one of the things that will make you want to go to war is when you've been on a product for years,
Yeah.
and then somebody comes and you like, oh no. I've been on this product for so many years. I have a relationship with the manufacturer. No, you don't want to mess with me. And I want to tell you like this: I do not recommend this, so don't take this as advice, but it just as an anecdotal, story, something that actually happened. Somebody wanted to go to war with me on a product, went to war, and he came with the white flag. So I don't recommend that.
Well, there's a lot of different strategies when it comes to, if you know that you're on a listing that you know that you have the better product and they are like they tank the price or whatever. Sellers have done all kinds of stuff like, buy all of their inventory at the lower price and then relist it at the higher price when it comes in. Like I mean, it's just, like I'm just gonna buy you out and get you off.
Buy you out.
Yeah.
I did that with Amazon one time. Bought them out.
Yeah, buy you
know,
out.
They talk about Amazon flips.
Yes, that was the Amazon flip. There you go.
Yep.
So that's a strategy that people have used as well. It's like buying people out and then get back on that listing.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, pay attention to shipping zones when it comes to fulfilled by merchant. I don't know. It just seems like when you decide you're going to merchant fulfill, all of a sudden, if you're on the East Coast, you keep getting all these orders from the West Coast. I'm like, wow, why?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? But let me give you a tip on that. And I think I covered it down a little bit deeper into this list, but you can save money. I use a software called Shipping Easy. There are other ones out there. What is it? It's Pirate Ship. There's other ones. You can get such deep discounts shipping, particularly UPS. Think about what I'm trying to say is this. If there's a product that you're considering selling and you're thinking about whether or not to sell it fulfilled by merchant, calculate the shipping zone. I have one set up for California at all times. So when I'm looking at a product, I can do a mock shipment and see what is it going to cost to ship this 2-pound item to San Francisco or whatever, because I know I'm going to get those. Okay. So pay attention to those zones. Number 6, get to know your stores. Now listen, get to know your stores. If it's an online store, learn how to stack your cash back with your coupons and your store points. I'm talking if it's an online store. There's so many ways that you could save money. For example, I got videos where I talk about shopping at Kohl's where I demonstrate how to virtually walk into an online, Kohl's.com with $100 free money. You can't beat me when I'm paying nothing for the item. So learn your stores. If it's a retail store, get to know the manager. They're regular people. You can walk up to them and ask them questions like, hey, when do you get your fresh stock in? What are you doing with inventory that you need to get rid of? Hey, here's my number. If you ever need to get rid of this, I'm interested in that. They don't care that you're a reseller. They care about managing the business. This goes back to what I was talking about. You're an asset if you're going to come in and buy.
Well, some of those managers get bonuses for their sales or the volume that they push. So if they get to a place where like, okay, this thing is not moving and they know they're getting close to their bonus time, and that's another thing to learn over time, then you'd be like, okay, what you got? Because I'll come clean you out. You always get your bonus numbers because I'm always be there for you. So
And don't be afraid. A lot of us are just afraid to talk to people. We're afraid to scan in the store. Somebody might look and see me scanning. Ain't nobody watching what you're doing. You got a phone in your hand? Yeah, so does every 10-year-old kid. I mean, ain't nobody checking for you like that. And if you're willing to walk up to a manager and say, "Hey, my name is La Machine. Uh, I was wondering about this, that," it, it's going to make things a lot better.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of sourcing at Family Dollar. I would walk in, grab a two-wheel dolly, and go right to the back because they knew they were literally ordering for me. So let's see. Get into groups. I'm talking, there are Facebook groups, there's other, social media groups. There are groups around this stuff, and there's so much stuff you could learn. I don't do a lot of sourcing at Walmart, but I was just so surprised to learn uh, different things about how to source at Walmart. I was using a software called BrickSeek, and I'm like, man, every time I try to use it, I don't see this stuff. Groups showed me how to do it. So get into your groups. That's going to put you around like-minded thinking. It's going to open up your eyes to things that you never even thought about. You don't know what you don't know. So how you going to find out? Get around people that do this all the time.
Now,
I'm
here's what
sure
I
you
will
got
say.
something to add to that.
Now, here's what I will say. I like the idea of getting into groups, but here's the caveat.
Okay.
Sometimes you can get into groups and you might not get good advice.
Mm.
Sometimes you can get into groups and the person that's sharing the information is not potentially the person that has the greatest piece of information. And sometimes you can get into groups and you can get sold other crap. So I think that there's a level of experience that comes with getting into groups. And so you have to marry those two together because not everybody, when you're going into groups and you're getting input and feedback from others, they become that feedback or input is coaching and teaching. Not
Mm.
everybody's meant to be your teacher. Not,
True.
here we go. You're not meant to always eat from everybody else's table. So I just want to encourage you to be mindful of the groups that you join and be mindful of the information that is fed to you. And if it feels off or feels wrong, don't do it. That's all I'm
Right.
gonna say.
Yeah. A level of discernment is going to be necessary, as it would be in all aspects of life. It can be an advantage. You do need to, you know,
Proceed with caution.
yes.
Proceed with
So,
caution.
but
Yeah.
but I'm going to tell you from my personal experience, uh, I got to know some really good people.
Oh yeah.
If you're a good judge of character and you try little things and it seems to work, you kind of learn who you might want to listen to,
And that's the
and
key. You
it's
said
good to
little
keep,
things.
yeah, little
Again,
things.
because that's part of the challenge. That is one of the things that happens during Q4. People get advice from 30 other people, and then you just become paralyzed and you don't take any action. So,
True.
again, sometimes going into groups can actually put you in a position where you paralyze yourself. So,
Right.
just be prepared to start small and take little action and use discernment.
Absolutely. And another thing about groups, uh, eventually there might be a person that you seem to resonate with, and you two start talking outside of the group. That can be huge as well.
Yep.
Um, Number 8, try to keep your inventory going to one warehouse. This is, of course, if you're using FBA. In the beginning, if you're not thinking about it, you're just going to create a shipment, and Amazon says, "Oh, you're sending 10? Well, send one to this warehouse and one to that warehouse and 3 over here. That way you can help us with our distribution and our logistics, and you can foot the bill."
No,
Yeah, no.
no.
And in the beginning, you're just thinking, well, this is where they want it. So, well, no, there's ways around that. Again, I use Inventory Lab. You can do it right within the seller
Amazon app. Yep.
central.
Inventory placement. Yep.
Yeah. But you got to be thinking, okay, I'm not just going to send this all over God's green Amazon earth just because that's what the system told me to
Once.
do. Okay.
Well, and here's the other thing. You need to be prepared that if you decide to do inventory placement, which is what that's called, that your inventory could be held up just a little bit because once it's arrived at that one location, they may still decide to splinter it off
Yes.
And so you might have, maybe you sent in 100 of something, but 58 of them are going all the way to Seattle, or, and
Right.
16 are going to Ohio. And so you're like, well, wait a minute. I know I sent in 100. Why is there only 24 active? So you just need to
Right.
be prepared for the fact that the others could be in transit because
True.
they are sending it off somewhere else. And so that means that if somebody wants to come and buy, you could be out until those others become live, until those others check in.
That's true. Um, I do a lot with replens, and my advice, which is number 9, spread your replens across some great categories. Guys, you got to start thinking. If replens is a big thing with you, you got to start thinking about regular staple items. Okay. Americans love their pets. Their pets got to eat. That's going to be a replen. Uh, there's a sizable enough group of Americans that use deodorant, that that brush their teeth, that, you know what I mean, that use soap, those things, lotion, paper products. Nobody thinks about paper products because they can be bulky. Figure it out. Figure it out. Because a lot of people don't want to figure things out. They just want everything to be easy. This is a tip. This is a bonus tip. When you get into this business, here's what you're going to run across. You're going to run across people that have some of your traits. They're consistent. They're never going away. They're never going away. But they're looking for everything to be easy. So you can get a degree of separation when you say, hey, you know what? There's you, there's me. Neither one of us are ever going to go away. We're making money. We're consistent. That's that. But you're not willing to take an extra 2 seconds to bubble wrap some things. I am. So now I can sell what you got, and I can sell what you're not willing to do.
Yeah.
Same tenacity, same stick to itiveness. But you won't take 2 of them and put them in a Ziploc bag and do this. I will.
Yeah.
So
You
think
won't
about
create a
that,
new
guys.
listing to create the bundle. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Number 10, and we touched on this in another time. Sometimes a product isn't selling just because the market is not willing to pay the price where it's been listed at. Keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. Sometimes you got to test the market, and if you can find that sweet spot, that could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Number 11, and you might have I'm interested if you have anything to say on this. On IP complaints, I just get out of the listing. I don't. When it comes to arbitrage, you will get intellectual property complaints from time to time. That's just part of it. Okay. You can use tools. You can use your own experience to figure out what brands do I need to stay away from. But eventually, you will get a tap on the shoulder where somebody says, "Hey, you're on my listing. Get out of here," and it will be the IP, intellectual property owner. Just get out of it. And again, guys, I said it in the beginning. I don't fret. I don't worry. You come at me and say, "Hey, get off my listing." I might already have 10 of them sitting in the warehouse. I'll take the price. Let it sell. Now they're gonna come at you like, "Oh, you gotta get rid of this." They make it. They have language that make it sound like Perry Mason is after you. You know what I mean?
They make it
I don't.
scary.
I don't get. I'm over it. But I would advise you just get out of the listing. Do as much as you can. We don't have the platform right now to get into ways.
IP complaints. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
this is what I will say. There's a couple of tools. There's a IP alert. It will tell you
mhm,
products that you don't source products that will potentially have high IP complaints. That's one. That's one thing, that way to help you around that. Number two, sometimes the IP complaints are not legitimate,
I
and
did
so
a
if you're
video
not
on that.
so being able to discern the difference between a legitimate IP complaint and a non-legitimate IP complaint is extremely important. Somebody's just trying to get you off the listing, and
Mhm,
it's not a legitimate IP complaint. It's not from the actual manufacturer, owner, whatever. And then the third thing is that if you do have an IP complaint, I've heard many different strategies, and I'm just going to say Jeff Schick, who's with the legal side of this will be speaking in the summit, and he will give you some advice and some suggestions. But I've seen a couple of black hat processes that people take to get rid of that inventory if it is from a legitimate, true owner that wants you off of the listing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, which cracks me up all day long, is a guy. He says that when he gets those, he will list it after hours. Like he will go back, activate the listing from like 1 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the morning, and then he'll inactivate. I'm like, you are nuts. So he'll have a VA go in there just so he can get the sales and get rid of it. Like some kind of crazy obscure hours, because they know that the person who's monitoring the anything that's happening, they're monitoring during regular business hours. So again,
Mm-hmm.
he's figured out some little black hat tips around the whole getting around IP. I don't recommend that for anybody. What I do recommend is one discerning whether or not it's a legitimate IP complaint or not. If it is legitimate, you can go back and forth, exchange interaction with them to determine the legitimacy of it. And if it's not legitimate, then I just ignore them and I continue to sell what I'm gonna sell. Okay.
Yeah.
Then if it's a legitimate one, and once you've discerned that it truly is, then you may want to seek the advice of a legal counsel. And number three, you could use tools to avoid having to deal with IP complaints as much as possible. The other thing is you can sell it on other platforms. Now, here's the deal: selling it on other platforms, because it got an IP complaint on Amazon, doesn't mean that they won't come after you on other platforms. So, if you're selling on eBay, make sure you go through the Vero list. If you're selling it on some of the other, just be prepared that if they follow you on some of the other platforms, that if it's a legitimate one, you may or may not have a big enough bank account to go after to deal with the repercussions of these people. So, decide how you want to approach it, decide what you want to do, and that would be my recommendation.
I like that. I like that. And another thing on that, I give you I thought I had a bogus IP complaint. I was selling a Ninja product. You have your Ninja blenders or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, why? I was sure it was bogus, but just instead of ignoring it, sometimes I'll entertain it just for sport. So I said something. I was very polite. I was cordial, but the bottom line was, I was like, I know you're not real, because you wouldn't contact me through, the customer contact end of it. You don't need to. You don't need to. As a matter of fact, at that time, they may have updated their rules, but at that time, an IP complaint was not to be submitted through the same communication channels as a customer would.
Correct.
Turned around, it was actually Ninja. And they even went on to say, hey, if you want to sell our products, we've attached an application.
So that you can.
And it was really legitimate.
And under normal circumstances, like those brands, they will typically go directly to Amazon to get you off of the listing. That is typically the traditional way in which they will do it. So they will go through the Amazon channels to kick you off of the listing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you will have some insight versus this obscure communication. And again, interact with it, determine if it's legit, and if it is, okay, deal with it. If it's not, I'm done talking to you because you're not legit. So I know that if you're legit, I know Amazon will take the listing down automatically. Period. In the discussion.
The guy was actually trying to be nice to me, but so number 12 we did touch on, but it was worth putting on this list. People do run out of stock. Keep that in mind. Learn to use your tools. A lot of times, just because you see a lot of people on a listing, you got a lot of people selling on Amazon that run around following other people, and they all run to one product, tank it. Then they go to another product, tank it. And, you can even find, you might look over your shoulder and the same guy keeps popping up on all of your listings. A lot of sellers are monkey see, monkey do, because a lot of people don't want to think. They don't want to do work, and they're looking for the easiest way possible. One of the easiest ways for a lot of sellers is to look at you. and try and figure out, hey, what are you doing? You did all the work.
Yeah.
Let me just jump and pick up from your cherry tree.
Yep.
But
It's
eventually,
spidering technique is what it's called. That is
what do you?
exactly, it's called spidering, and
Okay.
that's what you do is you go. Sometimes people will go after one of the platforms that they'll start with. Sometimes is eBay. You can sort by the solds, and then you go find the seller, and you go find other products that they've sold, and then you track them down in reverse to search, you know, and go find other products that are profitable that they've sold. That is what you do. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a spidering technique. Yeah.
And just remember, there are millions and millions of products out there. Don't be discouraged by that.
Yeah.
Uh, if it's a good selling product, guys, I'm telling you, they they will eventually run out of stock and move on. So just keep that in mind. Number
Yep.
13, create a watch. Now listen to what I'm saying. Create a watch list so that you don't rush into a listing. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. What could happen to you is this product looked great at the time you were sourcing it. So you sourced it. By the time it got to you, you prepped it, you sent it in. All of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of people on it, or something happened, and now you're not making money. A lot of times, what I do, I see a product and it looks perfect, and I don't do anything. I wait a week. Sometimes I wait 2 weeks and see what happened. If everything stayed the same for that length of time, then I feel a lot more confident. You don't have to do it that way, but there are products that I will create a watch list. Now, you might be better at watch list than me. My watch list is I leave that window open. That way I have 100 windows open on my computer. Maybe you want to create some other form or
Yeah.
format, but
Yeah. Google Sheets
create,
will work for that. Anyway, go ahead.
exactly. Creating that watch list and watching that item over time. Eventually, you'll have, in the beginning, you're trying to hurry up and get going. Momentum is key. But over time, you're going to be a little more discerning. What am I adding into my inventory? Is there any extra steps that I can do? Would a little bit of patience pay off? In a
Right.
lot of cases, it will.
And if you determine there's a lot of people on the listing, you can always go list the item, especially if you're doing merchant fulfillment. You can go list it on other platforms because you don't want to hang out while everyone else is on the listing. You could go from, hey, when I sourced this, I can remember Thanksgiving and sourcing a bunch of stuff from Walgreens that were Black Friday sales, uh, and then when I got home, like 80 people, 220 people were on the listing. I was like, Jiminy Christmas! So just go list it on other platforms
Mm-hmm.
until it dies down. You run out, they run out, and then you can go back and make because you have it in your
Right.
possession. So that's another way
Mm-hmm.
to do it. But anyway, go ahead.
Another thing with that used to really, tick me off. I would send a product in, and then all of a sudden, Amazon hops on it,
Oh,
and you didn't know. Maybe Amazon obviously had some on the way or whatever. You try to use your tools, you're always going to run that chance.
right.
This is an art, um, but I found that if I wait, I mean, I might wait 3 weeks,
Mm.
4 weeks, then I'm sure. I don't do that on everything, but that is a tip. Uh, Number 14, for me, testing products merchant fulfill first. That's a foolproof way to test a product. In my experience, if I can sell it merchant fulfilled, it will most certainly sell FBA.
FBA. Hmm.
That has been my experience. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you're not set up for merchant fulfilled, you need to invest in it. You need to invest. It's not hard nowadays. If you can send inventory into Amazon, you can send a package to a customer. It's going to open up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
Is you mentioned uh eBay, you might have mentioned, Walmart, and I know Walmart has their own form of FBA now, whatever. But that gives you a degree of separation. Some listings I'm on there merchant fulfilled and FBA. So uh but yeah, if I test that product and it sells merchant fulfilled, I'm good to go. FBA. Um, Number 15, hang in there. Okay. Products come back around, and we just touched on it, but it was worth mentioning here in this way specifically. A product, a lot of people jumped on it, tanked it, you got off of it. Go back. Go back and look at that product a month, 2 months, 6 months later. Some people subscribe to lists not to jump on items right away, to go back. And once the crowd has moved on, those can be some really good items. Just hang in there. Okay. Number 16, when you bring a product back to the market, be careful with the pricing because most of the times it's going to fetch a lower price. In other words, there's this thing. I don't know how people like to refer to it, but you could find a product that was once on Amazon, and for whatever reason, you can source it, and it hasn't been on Amazon for a while. Okay, you'll see a flat keeper chart. You can bring that product back to market. That's a great strategy, but just understand, in my experience, it may not fetch the same price that it did back then. So,
well, and the one thing I would say is if you do that, always look at the velocity in which that product was selling at the time. Because
mm-hmm.
that potentially could be a product that nobody else could find. And so you actually may end up getting more for the product because the universe has been sitting out there waiting for it to come back out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing. Go look at the velocity. If it was one of those things that was trickling in a sale or two a day, yeah, then you're probably not going to get that much money for it. But if it was something where it was clearly selling like 200, 300 a day, and then you're the only one that has it in the universe, well, that demand could warrant that the price could be way higher than it was before. So there you go.
Now you bring me to another point that's a,
Yeah.
a little bit further down, but I'm going to talk about it now. You're going to like this. Keeper charts will lie to you.
Yeah, they will.
That is point number 18. We'll go back to 17. Keeper charts will lie to you. Now, here's why this is important. Because your expectations. Now, listen, you could be looking at a keeper chart and it's saying that it's selling 300 units a day. So now where's your expectations? You could be looking at a flat keeper chart. So now where's your expectations? Let's unpack that because I got some products that nobody jumps on because when they look at the keeper chart, they see nothing. And I can't keep them in stock. So keeper charts will lie sometimes. It is a tool and it's a very good one, but it's not 100%. And you're going to need to know that, especially as a beginner, especially as a guy that's not all that big and you're looking for that degree of separation. Every now and then you might test a product, even though all the signs are pointing in the wrong direction. Good. Because when somebody's looking over your shoulder, looking for something to steal, looking for, you're going to say, oh, he ain't making no money with that. And that product is selling like crazy. On the other side, you might be looking at a keeper chart showing a lot of velocity, showing, good 90-day sales rank, good 90-day, buy box price. But when you jump on it, ain't doing nothing. So understand the keeper graph is a tool.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. So number 17. Again, this is going into merchant fulfilled. Where do you get supplies? Because you're going to need tape, you're going to need boxes, you're going to need bubble wrap. I use Uline and I use Granger. Now, with Granger, I got into their program because I'm going to tell you, shipping supplies, the cost to get them to you can get crazy. But with Granger, I use their I think it's called Red Pass, and so I get all of my shipping for free. But you have to pay up front for a year, so that's something. Did you want to add anything to where you get your supplies?
I start off, especially with new people, you can do USPS. supplies, order them absolutely free so you don't have to spend any money. Again, when you're first starting off, your goal is to minimize your expenses as much as possible. So that's
Mhm.
where I start. That's my starting point. It's just seeing what I can get directly from there and what I can ship using, some of the flat rate. It does make sense, choosing other shipping options other than flat rate, because flat rate can be terribly expensive. So depending on what it is that you're selling, sometimes flat rate works, and sometimes you are going to learn that you need to measure some stuff out. Make sure you got the right size, make sure you got the right weight, so that way you can get a better price for shipping this same item to the customer.
And don't forget, a lot of your regular grocery stores, they get rid of boxes all the time, and they don't care if you want them. That's less they got to deal with. But before the pandemic, I used to go into Walmart's at 1, 2 in the morning when they were stocking. You just see boxes right in the aisles, and I just walk right out the store with these boxes, and they didn't care. Um, I don't know how that works anymore because where I'm at, you don't have them 24 hours anymore. But
Yeah, we don't have them 24. We have some 24, but it's very rare. But the thing I will say is you have to be mindful the platform that you sell on, what they will have problems with on the outside of the box. So at the end of the day, you're running a business. Do your best not to have boxes that have a whole bunch of crazy stuff on the outside of it. You don't need somebody thinking they're getting ready to get a giant case of Cheerios when inside you got a Barbie dream house or something. So make sure that
that's see, that's the difference. That's the difference between you and me. You get in the box of Cheerios, and when you open it, there's a barbecue tree house, and I don't think nothing of it. So
I just want to encourage you that over time you are running a business. And
yeah,
so
I don't know if you can hear me. It looks like you froze up there.
ammunition box. Don't send anything in any liquor boxes. If you can help, just don't get yourself in trouble. Regardless of the platform that you sell on, try to find as many boxes as possible that have very little on the outside if you can. And
Absolutely,
sometimes some people get strategic. You can turn the boxes inside out. If that's how you have to start off, turn your boxes inside out and then ship it out to your customer, because
absolutely
they can always be retaped.
true.
Mm.
Um, yeah. And another thing, we talked about it a little bit before. It's worth being added to this list. Cash back. Take advantage of your cash back, guys. Once you set it up, you literally just click a button. That is free money and it adds up fast. You are a professional shopper. This is what you do. So why not take free money? And all it takes is a click of a mouse. I cannot stress it enough. And one more thing. I mentioned using discounted platforms such as like I mentioned pirate ship. I mentioned what I use, which is called shipping easy. uh, they are owned by stamps.com. You got these places where you can get deeper discounts. Just understand, particularly with UPS, you're shipping under their account. So then when there's a problem, you cannot initiate the investigation. That's not such a big deal in the beginning, but as you get bigger, it's for me, it's much more important to have my own account. That way when there's any issues, I'm in control. So just keep that in mind. It's really not that hard to do. A lot of this stuff applies once you've been in the business and you've proven that you've got the staying power. So that's my 20 pro tips, and I hope they help out.
They are going to be helpful. So let me make this back to full screen where we were before. I think that was a great tips. And if you didn't take notes, here's the deal: you can go back and rewatch this throughout the summit and that day. If you want to come back and listen to it on another day, you're going to have to grab the All Access Pass. Otherwise, you won't be able to watch it. So I encourage you to grab the All Access Pass. He's going to include his tips in there along with his leads list that he's going to give you from Tactical Arbitrage. Clearly, Tactical Arbitrage is working for him. And so I'm confident it will work for you. But again, if you're not profitable, you may not want to do that. There's so many different tools that you could choose as a seller. So I thank you, Horace, for taking the time to share with us your thoughts on retail arbitrage year round and also specifically this Q4. And I hope this information is a blessing to all those who are watching. And with that, we're going to say goodbye for now, guys. So goodbye and continue watching the summit. Take really good notes.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.